So yeah, man, what you been working on?
So I got the design done,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started it on Wix. I'm still having
Okay.
my issues with it, but for the most part, I got most of it done. So I got the design here. Again, the anchor links
Mm-hmm.
for these. Oh, I did want to ask. So you sent me that video with Mike,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he had those changes to your original website.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do I apply those same changes to my design since that like kind of came from the client, or am I just
Yeah.
doing my own thing?
Yeah. So you're taking into account what the client is saying and
Mhm.
making sure that it's reflected in your design. Now, obviously, your design physically is going to look different than mine, but
Yeah.
as long as you account for the same sentiments or updates that the client is asking for, then
Mhm.
you'd go ahead and make those updates in your design.
'Cause he was talking about like the movement by design and
Yeah, that
and
was a
changing.
specific section. Yeah, the copy of a specific section.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then changing it from movement, nutrition, and recovery to like something else.
To single words, yeah, he
Yeah.
had, like, move,
Mhm.
recover, yeah, some other shit. Yeah, I mean, that's I used a I mean, with the design that I have maybe a few more sections than you have because I think you have one, 2, 3, 4, 5 technically,
Yeah.
right? So I have one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8
Mhm.
in mind. So obviously, that's what I say. You got to be judicial in how you apply the commentary to your design. So you don't have a specific section about called move but design, but what it does translate to is your second section, your redefining fitness excellence.
Yeah.
That section would correspond with the move by design section he's talking about.
Mhm. Yeah.
So what you
That's
could
why I
do,
was asking.
yeah, so you would rename that to movement by design
Mhm.
and the copy that he had. But
Okay.
outside of that, so you're following along the same thing, then you're just applying the concept to your design.
Okay, cool, cool. And then my about section.
Mhm.
So with this, I managed to finally get it to work properly
Oh,
with
yeah.
right animation.
Mhm.
Um,
What was the problem?
so when I was going over the video and going like bit by bit on like renaming everything properly.
Mhm.
And the issue was that the layers needed to be the same in each variant. So
Yes.
when I started changing images and text, I would paste it into the frame, but it would go to the top of the layer.
Mhm.
And so I realized that it had to be in the same order as all the previous variants. And then it gave me like a smooth transition where like the slider looks smooth. It doesn't just like fade in
Mhm.
and out.
Mhm.
Same thing with the text. It like rolls up if there's like a little more text and it goes back down
Gotcha.
less. Just a smoother interaction. Where before it was just like fade out and then fade back into like the next. Uh,
Gotcha.
so
Okay.
I managed to get that one to work.
Mhm.
This one was working. Uh,
Yeah. Maybe, yeah, refresh that bad boy.
yeah,
There it is. Okay.
and then the anchor links for these.
Mhm. Okay. Nice.
Um,
You said you started building this in Wix?
this one, yes.
Okay.
And then I got the mobile mock-up. I got the hamburger menu.
Mhm.
This one was tough too. Um, like having to do it on a one pager and then having it like be
Yeah.
a, a pretty clean animation.
Mhm.
So I ended up just copying this like drop down menu that somebody else made and then just
Mhm.
try to copy it with my own
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
And yeah, I got the about page. And then the same thing with this one. It was a cleaner
Mhm.
interaction. with the same text
Mm. So I'm seeing you got the development program wrapped to a second line.
here.
Yeah. Any reason why you did that, or was that
Just to keep the proportions on like half of the page because
mhm,
it was 375, so I split it in half, and then that's how I came up with like these
gotcha.
sizes. So that's why that one ended up being two. Now, if
Mhm.
I could change it to single words, it would be clutch.
Yeah, yeah. So maybe it's like this is where that commentary from Mike comes in instead of nutrition and this, like he got it down to one word.
Yeah, it was
Maybe
like
this is something that you could do. So instead of movement training, just say movement. And
yeah,
then you see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
maybe that'll help you out instead of development programs like development,
mhm,
something like that. That could apply here. There you go. Yeah.
yeah,
Gotcha. Yeah. I think the only thing is like it's the this section right here that we're looking at, to unlock your potential with, that is still really close to the bottom edge.
uh-huh,
You know, I think you could play around with moving it up. And then also want to show you something too on your I'm gonna go over here now. I'm gonna mark some stuff up. But this right here,
yeah,
so you can see, okay, so you got it. So I'm gonna put this. I think that these spaces are not equal.
okay,
It looks off center. And if I do that, it's
yeah,
off center. Yeah, it's off center. So that's something I caught. And then the same thing, this has something to do with like your margins and things, right? So
mhm,
if you're on mobile, I would assume you're probably, I see what you're doing. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drag a copy, move it over here. And what's going on? Why is your footer not in the frame like that?
is it clipped? Like,
Oh, because you didn't have the content clip checked. I see that.
mhm,
Okay, so that's fine. All right. So I'm gonna take this section right here and I'm gonna pull this out. Right. And what you'll see is that I see what you did. You took this text box and you put it full width edge to edge.
yeah,
Right. Well, that doesn't allow you to really follow a grid because you can't measure the space
from the text.
between the text to the edge, right? You can't measure that. It's just based off of whatever predefined setting is, or you can change like the kerning or different character lengths over here in the properties. And that's not
Mhm,
what you want to do. What you want to do is, let's say if you're following, you're following a base unit of fours, right?
yeah,
So I'm gonna delete these. If you were, then you would probably have a 16 to 20. I would say 16, anywhere from 12 to 24 pixel margins. So
okay,
that means I would go, so just for shits and giggles, I'm gonna go 16,
yeah.
pretty much standard. And so now this is all right. So now you see I'm using 16 pixels. Let's put some spacers in here.
So does it matter if let's say you got the correct spacing on the text box, but the text itself is off.
That's
It's
fine. It's the
in
text.
your
Yeah, it's fine. Now, there are people who are absolutely go to the actual character of the letter, and then there's people that go to the boundary box.
uh-huh.
Most of the time, you're gonna go to the boundary box.
Okay.
Yeah, like unless you want to get super technical, that's like a graphic designer who's gonna go like by the actual text.
Yeah.
But
Just
in
like
our case, we're not doing that. We're going to the boundary box, dude. And in this case, you also have it at center alignment. So if this was
yeah,
right aligned, you know what I'm saying, then it's a bit different.
yeah,
So but yours doesn't seem to be following any base unit. Like I just copied yours over. So this is, you got it centered aligned, which we don't really want to, I don't want to say we don't want to do it, but you want to be careful with it. Like you don't want to have a one word on its
yeah,
own, right?
yeah,
So that's one thing. I would also say be careful when you're adjusting like the line height on this stuff. It should follow your base unit. So most of the time an auto is going to be okay, but if you do have a line height specified, it needs to follow your grid. So let's say I'm gonna use a 20 point font for this text, right? Regular
mm,
20. And then I'll leave it at auto, right? And if you click into it, you'll see that the line height is 24. So you got that in there. You want to be careful when it comes to your copy to make sure
yeah,
you don't get stuff like this.
yeah.
But so yeah, so that's what's going on. And it's almost, you almost have it. Oh, and I see what's wrong because you have this clip like that and you shortened it. Your grid is not being followed all the way down. So let's go ahead and bring it down. And there
Mhm.
we go. I see what's the problem. All right. So yeah, so okay, this stuff. So yeah, you're not quite following your grid. So just make this quick little adjustment and I think you're fine. But you can obviously continue on as far as building this in Wix. But all right, I'll stop presenting mine.
So Wix was pretty tough. I got the design, and the design looks pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like, I got the header, uh, with the logo and the anchor links, and then the about page. So I copied this from my Figma file,
Mm-hmm.
but then I try to do it again in like Wix's tabbed interactions. But that one was pretty tough. I was trying to leave this to the end because I tried to figure it out. And then when I did the preview, what I
Mm-hmm.
was doing wasn't showing up in the preview. And then same thing with the marquee. So I got the design down, right? But
Mm-hmm.
then when I preview the page, it doesn't show what I previewed. Like this header is different. The text is
Mm-hmm.
weird. The pages are huge.
And that's why I was telling you too about like the way you have your layout, right?
Mhm.
So how you're getting that. I know the aesthetic you're going for, right? But that stuff translate differently when you're actually building it. So like
In
how
different
close you are to the edge,
browsers.
right? And you don't know what screen size people are on. So
Yeah,
that's why like you design for the biggest and then you let it, go down, design for the
compressed.
biggest and the smallest, and then using code, and responsive design, it should be able, based off of the breakpoint, adjust to the device.
Okay. And then like the
Yeah.
button line disappeared. I don't know what was going
Yeah, that's probably some sort of styling that you have to change within Wix.
on.
And
Okay.
are you on a large monitor on this screen or?
It's 27, I think. 23 or
Okay.
27.
Okay. Um, yeah, and you got some weird stuff going on. Looks like some of the text is missing, like on that Emily R38.
Here, yeah.
Like
That
it's doing some weird stuff. And
but then
okay.
like when it's done with it overlaps here.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay.
And
And
then
but this was because of a plugin that allows you to convert from Figma to Wix. Is that what this is?
no. So the only thing that the plugin does is it gives you the images, the textiles, the colors, all the animations you have to do yourself.
Hmm.
So I got the anchor links to work.
So you did have a plugin. You do have a plugin that converts your Figma design into a Wix site, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And
It looks like it brought it in. It tries to bring in all the elements that's in your
yeah.
design, right?
Mhm.
And it's just, it looks like that preview mode is kind of, can you scroll up some more? Okay. And then the marquee animation, like they have a marquee animation built into Wix.
They did, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
So that's
so
how it's doing
I put my text in
inside of
there, but then it just oh no, I did it from scratch on Wix because the ones that the marquees that they give me is just like a single line. And since I have like the I guess the person's name on there too, I needed a double. So I found like some YouTube tutorial to like show me, and like initially it was working, but then it started like
doing some wonky shit.
yeah, and then I
Okay.
didn't know the solution to that.
What are these like ask a question, change the text to include your content? Like, what is that?
So this was part of their tabbed um interaction. It's like their plugin. And so I was like plugging in images into theirs. And that was just part of the existing.
Can you like show me what I don't know what you mean? Can you show me that?
Um so
Yeah,
like
like why is that text there?
it's part of the I never deleted it. I'm still trying to figure out how to edit like
Mm-hmm.
their plugins.
Got you. Okay.
Because it took me a long time just to figure out how to get the image full size.
Mm-hmm.
Because for the longest, it was just showing like this cropped like image. It only showed the for these two, nutrition and recovery, it
Mm-hmm.
only showed it up to like I guess the bottom of that text.
Yeah.
I don't even remember how I got it to show like the full image.
Well, I mean, what I'm getting at here is like, okay, if it becomes too difficult, then what you can do is just export that section at including the text as an image.
Uh-huh. That's and
And
so
then
that's what
just
I did here. This is an image.
okay. Okay.
And it's an image, but it also has like the text in it also and all
But
this.
you can't do the animation with that text though, right?
I don't know how.
If you can't do the click on nutrition, click on recovery programs, click on
This
that. Okay, so I see you have that. Oh, so it's below it now. Yours was above. You see how you got the tabs below the image now.
right. But this one, so this one is a part of like let me show you. So I go to like add elements,
Mm-hmm.
tab, and then this one here, right? So I picked this one because it had this little slider.
Mm-hmm.
And then I changed this one to be the 1440 by 960 size, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this one is just a bigger version of this.
Yeah, and I guess and then this ask a question. Can you remove all of that?
Yeah, I can. It's just a text box.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was asking this time. I'm like,
Yeah,
why is that? Why is that there? All right,
because
so
I'm still like working on it.
mm-hmm.
'Cause I'm just trying to figure out like I guess how it functions and everything.
Yeah,
It just
got you,
it wasn't
got you.
working.
All right.
But yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how to use Wix and how the preview like doesn't show what I designed. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. I got you. All right. Well, yeah, keep cranking away on that. Like us, and you said you have not played with Squarespace ever, right?
No, I
Or
was going to
you were
until
going to.
you mentioned Wix.
Okay. Well, yeah, I just like you got to find your groove
Yeah,
on which one, right? Like I said, I recommended Wix because they allow you to make a lot of free websites.
yeah.
So I think that's a big plus when it comes to Squarespace. They only give you like a 14-day trial or something like that. So like, unless you're working on that every day for the 14-day trial, it might be 30. I don't know, but I know the most I remember it was like a 14-day trial.
No,
Um,
it was 14 because mine
okay.
went out like last week.
Yeah. So like that, unless you're ready to pay for a site and start building on it, then you can't
Mhm.
really get that much benefit out of the free model for Squarespace. But all right, coolio. So yeah, keep plugging away on that, and I think you're good. Now let's get into the chatbot stuff. So you have Voiceflow. You have a Voiceflow account, I assume.
I made one, yeah.
So when you log into your voice flow, this is what you're going to see. These are the agents that I've built under this account. We'll dive into this one, the Access Performance one. This is the one we're building, and then I could show you a more complicated one. But what you would do is you would just hit this new agent up here to the right to create one. If you have a Teams account, then you can invite collaborators, but for the sake of our time together, we won't have any of that. Here's obviously notifications. This is an important one, import video, a voice flow file. So I can export this chatbot, whether it's a voice activated chatbot like this one, or if it's a web chatbot. Those are the two options or two types of agents you can create in Voiceflow, something that's an interactive with voice or via text, or in this case, the web. If I were to export this chatbot and email it to you, the file, you can import that file here. Voiceflow's new free plan, I think they now allow you to, let's see how much, you can now build two. You can build two agents for free. So you hit new agent, you obviously give it a name. You can give it a logo for the thumbnail, the modality. So it's chat or voice, and then select the language. So in this way, it's just test. We're going to do web chat because this is going on a website. And then hit continue. And then this is where if I want to invite people on my team, but obviously we don't have one. So I'm not going to create this because I already have one created. I'm just going to jump into the designer. Now, this is basically everything pertaining to your chatbot here. So this is the content. What you're doing is creating workflows that has a series of steps for your agent to be able to handle. So for example, let's say we're building a chatbot, in this case for Access Performance, that acts as an FAQ chatbot, but it also schedules in-person consultations. So those are two different workflows. So if I wanted to create one workflow, I would create one and call it scheduler. Then I would create another workflow and call that FAQ, right? I can build it all within one workflow if I wanted to. It's really endless possibilities. For things that are more complicated, you definitely are going to want more workflows. And I can show you what that looks like right now. So if we look at this one, I'll look at all these workflows in there, right? So this is a very complicated one. And each workflow is triggered by certain words or utterances that somebody would say, and it would trigger to go down a certain workflow. Then your knowledge, this is your knowledge base. So this is all the information you want to feed into your chatbot. And when you want the chatbot to answer from your documents, this is the knowledge, or these are where the documents are stored. This is called your knowledge base. And right up here, you can add a data source. Now, you can add URLs. So let's say you want to scrape information off of Nike.com. You can add Nike.com to the URL. And then now your chatbot can pull information from that URL and answer it back to the user. So this is how you add data sources. You can add URLs. You can add an entire sitemap of a website. You can upload up to 10 megabytes for PDFs, text documents, Word documents, and then you can just copy and paste plain text in here as well. They also have a new integration where you can connect and import from Zendesk, which is like a help desk ticketing type of platform. In this case, the FAQs I asked Mike to create. And so I took and uploaded that Word document into this file. So now we can now build the chatbot that answers frequently asked questions. And these questions cover really three topics. It's about the brand of Access Performance, the services and offerings that Access Performance has, and then background on Mike. So if anybody has any questions that cover these three things, well, we have an FAQ document that has the question and the answers to these typical types of questions. And what we also want to do is, like, within this flow, is if the chatbot, let's say someone asks a question that is not on this FAQ document, then what we want to do is we want to make sure that we capture that question and be able to add it to a database that Mike can go in later and answer that question. And then once he has that question answered, then we can make sure that the knowledge base gets updated with that additional question and answer pairing. The next thing here is the content. So you can create components that you can reuse. So let's say contact information component. Every time you're going to ask for a name, number, email. Well, you can group those questionings together into one component that can then be used somewhere later in the flow. So I'll show you what that looks like. Then you have variables. These are just basically custom data points that you're saving that can be reused later. So let's say you want to collect somebody's name, and then later on in the flow, you want the chatbot to refer to their name. Well, I'm going to create a variable called full name, right? And then whatever the chatbot captures as the name and stores it in that variable called full name, I can then go down later in the flow and say, okay, full name, what would you like to do today? And then the chatbot is going to basically say whatever name has been stored there. So whether it's Everett, John, Mercedes, the chatbot will be able to say, hey, Mercedes, what's on the menu today? Or, hey, Everett, what's da da da? You see what I'm saying? So this is what variables are. It's just data that you're going to store and possibly reuse later or send it. So like if we're going to automate something, right? Let's say we want to capture their name, like we're doing with Access Performance. We want to capture their name, number, this, da 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 da, and then we want to send all that information to Zapier, and then put that on, and then do something else with it. Well, these variables come in handy because we're saying, all right, collect whatever is their full name and send it to Mike. Collect whatever their injuries are, send that to Mike. So that's why variables are important.
What was Zapier again?
Zapier is the no-code automation tool that allows you to connect to over 6,000 different applications that you use and allow you to automate things.
Okay.
Functions are, I believe, JavaScript coded actions that your chatbot can take. So this is where being a developer comes in handy, where let's say you can programmatically create a function that says, hey, every time somebody sends this, do that. Anytime somebody does this, do that. And it'll be done automatically, and you will create a function for it. So if you know code, you can do whatever you want as far as making API calls, making a function to create a reusable code or transform data. So let's say you ask somebody a question for their date of birth. People can enter in date of birth multiple ways, right? Well, you can create a function that automatically formats whatever kind of date of birth that comes in into a month, day, year. That's done programmatically using coded functions. So the possibilities are endless there. And then intents. These are things that people want to do that trigger a workflow. So if you have an intent that says purchase a car, that's the intent, and it's going to trigger the workflow of purchasing a car. Well, people can say purchase a car multitude of different ways. They could say, hey, I want to buy a new car. I want to purchase a new car. I need a new car. What's the new car price? Like they could say anything referencing to purchasing a new car a multitude of different ways. So what you want to do is you want to type in those many different ways you can say something or say an intent in here. So in this case, no is an intent. There's no, nope, nah, not now, no way, no thanks, blah, blah, blah. Cool thing is you can have AI to generate some new ones for you. And then you can go in and edit those, but you want to get a strong confidence score this is your NLU. Basically, this is the brains of your chatbot. So if your the more ways your chatbot knows how to say something, then it knows how to trigger the right response and right workflow.
Mhm.
So as we see here, you can get into the actual editor by double clicking on the workflow or hit edit workflow.
Mhm.
You can also add a description here. One of the first things that we need to do as far as it's just mapping out like what this chatbot is supposed to do. Map it how you want to map it. I like to just get really simple. Just say, okay, just write everything out. What is it that I need this thing to do? And then I can make a pretty graph of it later. But ultimately, when you come in, you're greeted, right? Welcome to whatever. And then you have two route choices when it comes to using this chatbot. You can just ask a question about Access performance, or you can schedule a consultation. Those are the two things that you can do with this chatbot experience. All right. The next thing we need to do is capture information. So we need to capture their name, their phone number, their injury history, and their fitness goal. I put an asterisk by question because it's not a guarantee that somebody's going to ask a question. Somebody just may want to go straight into scheduling an in-person consultation. This is the information that ultimately we will be expecting, right? After that, once we collect all that stuff, we need to send this information to Mike. So we're going to do that using Zapier and Twilio. And then after that, send that information, because this is the most important piece here of the lead, right? The goal is to get them to go all the way through the end and schedule the consultation via Calendly. But we just have to prepare for if somebody gets distracted or doesn't continue all the way through to Calendly, then we don't want to lose out on that information, because we can at least, because the whole point of sending text message to Mike is to say, hey, you got a new lead, this person, here's their name, here's their number, phone, injury history, all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
Give him and that lets him know that he needs to reach out to them. And what Mike can do is the secondary backup. He can confirm with them, I saw that you scheduled for tomorrow. I just wanted to reach out and introduce myself and talk to you, a little bit more, right? Or he can be like, hey, my name is Mike. I know you visited the site, but I noticed you didn't sign up. I just wanted to confirm with you if you were still looking for, a trainer or whatever it is, right? So either way, that call of introducing himself, he can confirm after they've scheduled, or if they didn't schedule, he can get them to commit over the phone.
Mhm.
And then obviously we want to end the conversation. So that is basically what we're going to build out in Voiceflow. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is, once you start, typically they'll give you some pre-built stuff and you can just delete all that, right? So let's talk about the layout, what we have here. So obviously at the very top left here, this is how you get back to that view, the NLU of your chatbot, right? So we
Mhm.
double click here. That's how you get back. Over here's, this is the name of it. You can rename the workflow. You can go to different workflows here, or you can do it over here in the left panel. Here's how you invite people to this file, but we're not going to worry about that. Publish, this is, hey, I made some updates and I want to publish it to production. Then you will hit publish. If you choose, you can give it a name, but you don't have to. And you just hit publish, and then it saves it and publishes it. To run a test, you hit run, or you can come to whatever block you specifically you want to test and hit that play button and start the test from there. So run basically lets you run from the very beginning, or you can go into these specific steps or these cards and hit from there. Obviously, your left panel, this is where your workflows are. And then if you want to create a component, you can do it down here and your components will show up down here.
You didn't create any for this one?
No.
Okay. Cool.
So here are how you bring cards into the canvas, right? So right over here, this is your response. So this is AI generated stuff. This is AI generated response. you have the choice of choosing 2 data sources
Yeah.
where this response is going to come from, either the AI model, and this is how you select the model. Okay, I want to use GPT-4, 4.0, whatever, blah, 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 right? And you can change the temperature. So basically, how creative is the response going to be? The higher it is, the more creative it is. The lower it is, the more precise and less creative it is. And then these are just the maximum amount of tokens you want the chatbot to give or say to the user. I think it's 4 tokens is roughly 1 letter. So you can do the math here, right? Here is the system prompt. This is where you enter the this is the role, the context, the examples, that anatomy of a prompt I talked about.
Yeah.
You would put that here, and then whatever the task is, you would put the task up here. So hey, politely ask them what their name is, right?
Mhm.
And that's the prompt. That's the AI model. Now, if you click knowledge base, all right, well, now this goes to our knowledge base.
Mhm.
Whatever you fed it, whether it's PDF documents, Word documents, whatever, I don't want to use GPT-4 or Claude to answer this question. I want to answer these questions directly from my knowledge base. That's what's going on here. So you put the question to the knowledge base. Instructions is the same thing. This is where prompt engineering comes in, right? Set AI, this is using either your artificial intelligence model, so GPT, whatever, or your knowledge base, intelligently pick out information and store it as a variable. So you can either manually do it, like force it, say, hey, anything this person says, I want to store all of it in
Mhm.
this variable. Or you could say, hey, AI, I only want you to pick out their date of birth in whatever they say next. So if I ask them, what's your date of birth and the first time you went to an amusement park? When they start texting or responding back and say June 5th, and the first time I went was Knott's Berry Farm,
Yeah.
well, it's intelligently only going to pick out June 5th.
So is this for like in this case, Mike, it'll be saved for him to look at?
The chatbot.
Okay.
You're building the chatbot now.
Okay.
So you're either going to have the chatbot say something and show them something, or
Mhm.
you're going to ask the chatbot to ask for something so it can receive something.
Okay.
Here, when you say response AI, this is the AI talking to the user.
Mhm.
This is also saying, hey, whenever we collect something, use AI to set the variable for me.
Okay.
Talk, this is the chatbot talking to the user. You
Mhm.
can have it say a text. And what you're saying here is this is static text, meaning whatever you put here is what the chatbot is going to say. It's not going to say anything different.
Yeah.
Versus AI, response AI, long as you tell it what to say, it'll come with how to say it.
Mhm.
So that's the biggest difference between response AI and then just talk text. Image is exactly what it is. If you want to show the user an image, you can use that here. If you want to show them a card, you can do the same thing. You can give it a card title, and then description goes here, right? And then if I want to add a picture in there, I can do that. So talk is things you showing it to the user. Listen is you allowing an input to be received from the user. So whether you want to allow them to click a button, you want to just capture whatever they type or say
Mhm.
and store it, or if you want to give them a choice. So based off of what they say, it's going to take them to a different route. Logic, this is where you get into some fancy stuff. So this is where, like, all right, if you want to say, you ask them, hey, do you want to view your account balance or do you want to open a new account? Those are your choices, right?
Mhm.
And then you say, all right, if they say open a new account, we want them to go here. If they say check balance, we want them to go there. right? We could also do if, let's say we have a variable called age. And if age is equals less than 18, then no, you can't do X.
Mm-hmm.
If their age is greater than 18, then we're going to say a different message. So that's what this condition, you can do a lot of stuff with conditioning.
Condition is like the rules.
Yes, if then logic statements for
Okay.
going down certain paths.
Okay. Cool.
Set is the same thing as set AI, but it's you're manually setting a variable.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas AI, you let AI set the variable for you. Random, I've never used random, but this, let's say if you want to do some testing with certain routes and words and things to say, you can create two different paths and do like a A/B testing and put a randomizer step in here. And what this does is based on who is interacting with the link, it's going to randomly go through whatever path you want the user to go down. Component, this is just obviously if you want to create a component, you can drag this in here, you can select the component. And then developer stuff, this is where you get into the high level creating using functions. This is the API step. You'll probably use this a lot if you're automating things and like using Zapier, you would use something like that. You could use a function or you can use the API step. Let's go ahead and create some stuff. So we start with the welcome, right? So this is a greeting. What I have here, I did a response AI, and then I came in here and said, welcome them to Access Performance, and then let them know you're here to help them along their new fitness path, right? And I'm saying, hey, Chat GPT 4.0 mini, you come up with the way to say that,
Yeah.
right?
Do you have to tell it like to give it like a humanized response or
And that's where the system prompt comes in.
okay.
So you would, in my prompt design, I would go, let's see here. I'm gonna copy this in my system. I will go role. Okay, so that's the role.
Uh-huh. That hashtag in title is that
That's markup. So it's not required, but LLMs respond better
Mhm.
to that formatting.
Okay.
Specifics.
I didn't know the term because I know I copy it from ChatGPT, but I don't know what it means.
So then I would go notes. So I can tell you when it comes to using system prompts, the LLMs really pay attention to the first and the last thing you give it. So for the system, the role first, it's going to really heavily weigh itself on the role. And at the end, I use notes. And here is where like you would put do's and don'ts, like don't do this, only answer this way, da 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 da. Like any sort of adjustments you want to make,
Mhm.
the notes would be like the perfect section to put it in.
Would those be conditions as well?
They're do's and don'ts.
Okay.
Yeah. So that right there, and then the cool thing is you can hit preview and let's see what happens. Welcome to Access Performance. I'm here to assist you on your new fitness journey and ensure you receive the personalized support you deserve, right?
Mhm.
So based off of all these configurations and the temperature and all that, this is the response. And the cool thing is right up here, this debug mode, if you have that on, it's going to show you like what's going on behind the scenes. So it shows you what model you're using,
Yeah.
what token multiplier, how many tokens you used, all that sort of stuff. You see how low it is? Like you're gonna be hard pressed to even touch like the free amount that they give you. I think they give you like
You said
1
like
million or 2
right?
million or some shit. So like it's a lot they're giving you. You're not gonna even scratch the surface.
Okay, cool.
So you could also turn this off and it just looks like this.
Mhm.
So whenever I want to like take screenshots of this, I just turn the debug mode off. All right, so we got the greeting. And then here I added another one, just like let them know you can answer questions about Access Performance, right? So duplicate that because I don't want to really dictate how it's said. So that's why I put it in the response AI. But what I am going to do is copy all this system prompt stuff and put it. I already had one for this one. So You're intelligent, blah, blah, blah. So you can copy it down if you can shorten it if you want, but again, this is just where you test out how the model responds.
Mm-hmm.
Ideally, you want to test multiple models and then kind of chart each one's performance. Ultimately, that's how you test out which model performs the best. You got to try all of them. You obviously want to use the ones that are the cheapest and maximize using your right prompt design. You want to maximize the cheapest models. So we want to give them the choice to choose. So we welcome them to Access Performance. We let them know they're here to help you in a new fitness path. Maybe you want to say something like, mentioning scheduling an in-person consultation, right? So I might want to change this wording up a little bit. And then I want to showcase some buttons so that let them click on it, right? So I'm going to create one button and say, schedule in-person consultation. And I'm going to add another button. Now, what you see here, you got some options. You can attach an intent to it. You can also specify an action. All right. Now, what does this mean? So let's go back. Let's add the label for button 2. We're going to say, ask us anything. Okay. It's also important to name this too. So we hit start from here, and this is what we get. All right. So we got our buttons, we got our greetings. And if I wanted to, I could say, that's a little bit too much text. Let's shorten it, right? So if I want to shorten it, I would just go into here in the notes and say, keep your responses to one short, concise sentence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Max. And maybe I don't need to do max, but I just say that, right? So that's there. We got that. So now let's go back and test it out again. All right, so we got some finessing to do. It's still a little bit wordy, but we'll go with it for now. So schedule in person that. All right. So now I need to add the branches that get me to the next step. So the next thing we want to do is we want to capture the name no matter which direction they go in. If they click schedule in person or ask us anything, like we need to start capturing some information. So here we can do that by first starting with schedule in-person consultation, and then you can do a couple different things. I can actually start from here, click and drag, right? And once I let go, it brings up this menu. Or I can come right over here, drag something like this, and then connect it. Now, there's one thing to keep in mind. I can drag this and connect the entire card, or I can go individual card like this. Right? And I'll show you what the difference looks like. So we're going to show this one. And then I'm going to make another one and drag this in here like that.
Did he just copy and paste? Control
Yep.
C, Control V. Okay.
And then nope. Show them this. All right. So if I go here, all right, so let's test this out. So I'm going to click this and I'm going to click. Oh, another thing too, when you do put debug mode on, interesting, whatever you interact with, the canvas over in here on the left is going to automatically zoom over to where you are. So if I click, I'll show you what that looks like. Let's say if this is all the way over here.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're going to do is click schedule in-person consultation. And now it takes me to the next block. So you see this entire block was shown. We're going to show this one. Nope. Show them this, right? But if I go in here and click and hovered over this one, nope, show them this. So you got to be careful on where you're dragging and dropping certain handles and things like that to make sure that are you making sure it grabs the entire card or individual?
So is this to use the same card in different areas of
You can.
okay.
Exactly. So this one, like, hey, so we're trying to capture the name. All right. So again, this is where, this is static information.
Mhm.
So it's not much creativity here. What you type is what you type. Now you can do it like this, though. Let's say perfect. Uh, what's your name, right? And I could have AI generate 5 different versions of that. But the thing, what's going to happen is each time somebody interacts with this, it's going to select randomly one of these variants, but
Mhm.
it's only going to cycle through these variants, right? Now you can do the response AI and let the large language model respond however it wants to respond. So
Mhm.
there's, again, many ways to do one thing, and everything.
So does it look bad if I guess the user sees the same response, or is it just one's automated and one's not?
One's automated, one's not.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Like preference.
you don't expect somebody to go through this shit multiple times.
Yeah.
Like, so using the LLM to respond or statically doing that, it's a difference in approach, right? Letting the AI model respond, that's letting generative AI do it. Versus over here, this is more deterministic. What is said here will always be said here, and no matter how many times people go through it, like, they're going to see this wording.
Mhm.
That gets there's pros and cons to both, right? If you have like something that legally, like, it must be said, then it's better to go with this option
Yeah.
versus if whatever needs to be said is not strict, let the LLM come up with it. So yeah, this was kind of like a brief walkthrough. I would say play around. You know what information we need to capture. Don't necessarily worry about the API step just yet. The next time we'll talk more about that, just so you'll have that. And then what I like to see is by next class, whatever you have built up, we'll run through it, and
Mhm.
then we'll go through and kind of fix some things that aren't working, and maybe some things that can work better. We'll cover that next class, and then you should have your working prototype by the end of that class.
All right.
But yeah, that's it, man. I'll see you next week.
All right, man. Appreciate
All
it.
right.